Hello, friends. This is Charles Bird, and welcoming you to today's edition of Convo. Today's guest is Kirk Sullivan, who I roomed with at the California LP convention at Sacramento. Had a great time.
Yeah, it was a super fun time.
Yeah. So, uh, so tell us about yourself, Kirk.
Dude, whatever I can come up with.
Yeah, whatever you can come up with.
All right. Well, as was already said, my name is Kirk. I'm the current treasurer of the newly affiliated Libertarian Party of San Bernardino County. I was just elected last December, and thanks to the inadequacies of state government, we only just very recently finally got recognized in terms of the Secretary of State recognizing us. So that's literally just happened like a week ago. So we're super proud of and excited about that. Got a bunch of cool stuff hoping to come around the corner. But I've been a libertarian for a couple of years now. COVID-19 really warped what I thought this country was and what I thought the rest of the populace would take. We have this notion that America, land of the free, home of the brave, a floating abstraction isn't going to shut down the whole world, and that's certainly not here. And not only did it, but the rest of the populace went along with it completely willingly. And I do have to admit, myself at first too. I mean, it's you're hearing all these stories that turned out to be complete lies, that this is going to
Yeah.
be worse than the Black Plague. It's going to run through the population. It can affect old people, young people. It's just going to run roughshod until we find a cure for it. And obviously, that turned out to not be the case. So YouTube, you can back off. We have scientific data now. We had it then too, but you know, we don't
Yeah.
need to rehash 2021 again. Um, I was really turned by Dave Smith and Part of the Problem. I found him on Joe Rogan, and he completely blew me away. How he explained libertarianism, and then I found Spike Cohen and the Libertarian Party. I went to the Libertarian Party of California convention in 2021. I wasn't as a delegate or anything. I hadn't even officially joined the party yet. I just kind of went to talk to people and meet the vendors and what have you. And that was a really, really fun time. And I kind of just stuck with it ever since. And I kept reading more and more about this ideology. And now I can't imagine anything changing my mind. Like, once you learn to recognize the world through a frame of liberty, it's kind of hard to look at like the war on terror as anything other than a giant murder spree based on lies.
Yeah. Yeah. There was a lot of conflicting information flying around at the start of the pandemic, and so a lot of people did get it wrong in the first couple months. Uh,
Yeah, me too.
yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, all I could say is that if even if the rest of the world is saying 2 + 2 = 5, and Dr. Paul's saying it's 4,
Yeah, right. Of course, we follow Ron Paul.
yeah,
Of course,
yeah. I mean
absolutely.
that's who I listened to throughout that whole thing, and I was telling folks, look, you know this something's not making sense here, and besides, these people, they've lied to us about so much before, and it just makes zero sense to trust them now.
Yeah, exactly. You can
Yeah.
only trust the power structure for so long. Like the same people who are telling you that Assad gassed his own people in Syria about 4 minutes after he finally made a deal for that the United States would finally pull out. The
Mm-hmm.
same people who lied us into the war on terror to begin with And for whatever reason, Iraq was the target, despite having literally nothing to do with 9/11 whatsoever. And then just, I mean, mass death in ways that we've never seen in this country. Like, I mean, in mainland United States, I mean, we've never seen the kind of despotism that comes out of these countries. We've never seen the destruction that was laid to the people of Yemen and Somalia, and like just millions of people
Hmm.
dead based on complete lies. I mean, it's criminal behavior. And if we were a sane country, well, let's put it this way. I wouldn't be comfortable saying what I think should happen to these people on YouTube.
Yeah. Yeah. The I just found out that Liberland, which is this little micro country in the former Yugoslavia,
Hmm.
has been it was literally just taken over and dismantled by the Croatian police.
Really?
Yeah, they seized and demolished buildings, confiscated personal property. Yeah, they're never going to leave us alone.
No, there's this great statist myth that the government is here to provide and protect for you, and their version of provide and protect is strip you of all your rights, destroy your property, and make you live in absolute horror.
Hmm.
Don't you want to live that way?
Yeah, yeah. The yeah that that's always been a fascinating topic for me. Are these little micronations like Liberland,
Mhm.
or those people who try to start their own little island countries using oil rigs or seasteading.
Right. Yeah, seasteading.
Yeah, I
That,
and yeah, there was
yeah.
a and I remember this one news story from like a decade ago. There was this rich guy who bought just a tiny sliver of uninhabitable desert in Egypt
Mhm.
just so he could declare it a sovereign country and name his daughter a princess of this new country that he created over there. And they don't even live there.
Oh my goodness. It's just some rich dude with like millions of dollars to play around with. And he's like, you know what? I love my daughter so much. I already call her princess. Let's just make it official for me and her. And that's about
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. That's kind of fun. I mean, you know what? Baller move. I can't say I wouldn't entertain the idea, like it'd at least be interesting to think of.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, maybe they can offer the Lieberlanders refuge.
Right. Exactly.
Uh,
They can offer them free healthcare, and they
uh,
I can't even make the joke. It's too ridiculous.
yeah,
They need reparations.
yeah. Yeah, the yeah, speaking of reparations, there was this ridiculous editorial in my local paper about the California bear flag,
Uh,
saying that it was linked to the Confederacy and slavery,
oh my
and then the
goodness.
rest of it was like three paragraphs on reparations, and it's just
Oh
yeah,
my goodness.
yeah,
This kind of like, for lack of a better term, I'm just gonna call it like leftist rhetoric. It's to me, it doesn't even seem like it has a targeted philosophy. So like what drew me to libertarianism most is it is a limited philosophy. Like we don't say once you've abolished the slave trade, what the slaves should do. It's like if you want to paint, go ahead, but you need to not be whipped and have all your money stolen from you before you could do that. It's a limited philosophy. We say freedom is paramount. What you do with that, we believe you're going to utilize to your best intentions your own talents, your own psyche, your own flourishing. You're going to make that your own.
Yeah.
But this kind of leftist nonsense, the California bear flag is racist or whatever. It's like, one, it's just ridiculous. I mean, we're talking to people that have the mental capacity of a 5-year-old, and that might be an insult to the mental capacity of 5-year-olds.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you're actually editorializing that in a local newspaper, I mean, Jesus, you really need to find some time. But you also need to like go live in reality a little bit. People, like general people, don't find this kind of thing any like my own friends aren't exactly they're not political really. Like they'll listen to what I have to say sometimes. Maybe something I say gets through to them
Mm-hmm.
every now and then. But like, one, I don't really try to shove it down their throats. But even they look at this kind of thing and go, all right, this is ridiculous. We're going to be paying the residents of San Francisco who have never ever seen an ounce of slavery in their life. We're going to pay them reparations. Really, this is what the argument is. It's ridiculous. And
Mm-hmm.
at least I could, because there is a libertarian argument in 1866 for land grants of people that actually like worked the land based on libertarian property right theory, that like they worked the land, their labor was stolen from them, they're the quote unquote rightful owners. Like there is at least an argument to be had. 150 plus years ago, the title has changed hands so many times. A bunch of people have worked the land now. It's murky,
Yeah.
but like we have no problem with property rights being recognized. That is paramount to libertarianism. But again, we can explain these kind of things in a way that's fair and makes sense. And then you get these people who say that if you don't support reparations, you're a white male racism apologist. It's the most ridiculous thing.
Yeah, it is.
Have you encountered these people before? I mean, not even necessarily online. Like I was in college 5, 6 years ago now, like just starting to really take it seriously. And I've met these people. I mean, they're insufferable.
I attended college in the late 90s, back when it was called e-racism.
Oh my goodness.
Oh yeah, it was I was in a creative writing course, and the instructor actually dinged me for describing a character in a short story as having simian features, saying, "Oh, that's a racist word."
Oh my goodness.
And and and
This
and
is
the, and the and and the dude in the story was white. You know,
it was Don Quixote.
yeah, he was a I was describing somebody who was large framed, large stature, muscular,
Right.
ape-like
Yeah,
in
of course.
appearance, but
Yeah, of course.
she had it in her head that I was saying something racial.
Isn't that kind of an indictment on her character that
It
she
is.
read that
It is.
and automatically jumped like that's the assumption? It's like, so that's what you think these people look like. This is your problem.
Mm-hmm.
We're describing
Yeah.
physical attributes of like how people are. We're not describing skin color when you use that word. It's like when well, like when you call somebody burly, you're picturing a certain type of person. You don't immediately think race color, or well, I guess if you're insane, you do. But I don't know. I just think like a big guy. Maybe he's got like facial hair and what have you, like a big guy. I don't think big black guy. I don't think big white guy. I don't think big Indian guy. I think big guy.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. Then there are people who just they thought they were like the self-appointed diversity cops. You couldn't even have a casual conversation in the hallway without them butting in.
Right.
With their actually and all that.
You're yeah. Actually, like the meme. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, When I first saw that meme, yeah, I knew exactly who and what they were talking about.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. It's an archetype. It's a character archetype. It's people that have these kinds of appeal to authority tendencies. They have authoritarian natures at heart. You know, that's why they follow this kind of leftism, and they have nothing to take it out on. So they go to a place where they quite frankly don't have to be that intelligent, which is the universities. I mean, we've seen the degradation of universities over 20, 30, 40 years. You used to have like rigorous debates from William F. Buckley going to various colleges, and these were broadcast on television.
Hmm.
Now you get a 6 term college student with purple hair saying you're racist for bringing Michael Knowles onto campus.
Yeah.
Like it's unbelievable. And when I say that, quite frankly, these are just unintelligent people, I truly believe that these are just unintelligent people. I
Hmm.
really do. Like that they have no. Michael Malice described this perfectly. They have maybe one trait where, like, if you've ever played D&D before, right? You're creating your character, you have all these attributes. They have
Hmm.
like one in everything else and then two in intelligence. So they go to the universities, they screech really loudly, they make you adhere to their demands. And because they have one degree of intelligence more than anything else they have, that's the thing that they think they
Yeah.
have the most of. And so they flex it on you and they try to get you to follow them because they feel that they're king shit of the world.
Yeah. Yeah, that whenever I would see campus demonstrations where they would be blocking a pathway or a building, it makes me wonder about, see the a lot of them they'll still have a job waiting for them when they get out of college at mom's realty company or dad's dealership.
Right,
I mean,
exactly.
they'll look too weird and not have any social skills, so they'll be given like a data entry position or something. But
Right, exactly.
yeah, right. And the ones not protesting, the ones that are actually there for an education, they're some of them got talked into doing the student loan thing, but then you got those who are like working 2 jobs just to be able to afford to be a part-time student.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
If you don't mind, because this is actually the student loan thing is something that I wouldn't necessarily say passionate about. It's just it's something that I come across a lot in my particular age group because I'm 26. So I went to college with people like 8 through 4 years ago. We
Hmm.
obviously we stopped going in 2020 because everything was shut down, and so the rest of us had to get real jobs. But I've come across this argument a lot. The student loan repayments type thing, and it's a giant battle in Congress. And like at the onset, I want to say I do find the student loan institution completely and totally predatory in nature. I mean, it's horrendous. The fact that by law it can't be discharged in bankruptcy court is unbelievable. But then I don't have a whole ton of sympathy for people who take it.
Yeah.
Because if you see these kinds of high prices for loans, this is information. Like as libertarians, we understand economics like very very well, better than most, I would say.
Hmm.
And we understand high prices means one of two things. It's either very in demand and sought after, which we understand is kind of the case, but it's subsidized and what have you, or there's not enough of it. And this government incentive is completely restructuring how people take loans. So they're guaranteed by government. So you get this third party payer effect where you don't really care how good the product is, aka the degree that's supposed to be the quote unquote collateral against the loan. Like you're getting this loan to go get an education, you're thinking it'll pay you back in the future, and these loan companies in theory are supposed to recoup some of their losses that they gave you and make money on it in return. When it's granted by government, they don't care if you pay or not pay it back or not. They're getting it guaranteed by government, so they'll just issue loans for whatever. So you get this feminist dance therapy or whatever it is, and these just ridiculous classes that will get you absolutely nowhere. There's no ROI to speak of.
Hmm.
But again, these loan companies don't care. They're getting bailed out by government. If you and I, right, if you're paying for dinner, I know you, so I would be nice and I wouldn't try to extrapolate a whole ton from you. But if I didn't know you very well and maybe we didn't get along all that well, like as a business meeting or something, I'm going to try to squeeze you for as much as I can because it's not my money. I don't care how I don't care how you think how good the product is. I care if I like it. So like we're at dinner, I'm gonna order the expensive, great things from Benihana's, and I don't care how you are. You offered. It's gonna be mine. Give it, give. It's free. I don't give a shit. Oh, sorry, I didn't even ask if I could curse on your show or not.
It's
um,
okay.
okay, cool. But then if I actually have to pay for it, I have to economize a little better. If I have to actually pay for it, I have to like have a plan. Okay, this is what I'm going to get, so it's not so expensive, but I'll still get the most out of it that I can. And this whole student loan system, it's totally predatory. There is none of that. The government is completely screwed. But then you took the loan, you went for this class, and now it's kind of on you. And I realize that sounds harsh, but what it does is essentially it's a giant wealth transfer. It takes all tax money, which is what these people are in effect arguing for.
Hmm.
All of our tax money to like all of their loans to be distributed amongst us so that we bail out their bad decisions.
Yeah.
It's just it's the inverse of 2008. The 2008 was government bailing out the big banks. Now it's just bailing out the people. And if you say I'd rather the people be bailed out than the banks, I'd rather nobody be bailed out. I'd rather economic incentives be allowed to work, have these kinds of
Hmm.
damages be localized, like it was in, I don't know, 1921.
Yeah. The student loan debt bubble that needs to pop. The and if that happens, it'll be the end of higher education as we know it, and that would be a good thing.
It'd be a great thing. And the universities I don't want to say evil, but they're the worst. I mean,
Hmm.
like I could just regurgitate what I said already for several hours, but I mean, you could go. University professors are just they're in my opinion, it's kind of a protection racket. They're hired by these colleges to teach classes that nobody cares about, and then they write books to for their own subjects so they can collect a bunch of book money that nobody reads. They're unserious people.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Light subjects.
Yeah. 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 It's really yeah. Yeah, when I went to grade school, they really talked it in India too about how you're not going to get anywhere in life if you don't have that 4-year degree.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's such nonsense. I mean, the
Hmm.
tra- the like the trades are now paying people to get their licenses because there's just not enough tradespeople.
Yeah.
Like go into residential roofing. I mean, you'll make bank. And look, it's a hard job. I don't want to, make it. You're not pushing buttons at a desk. It's gonna be tough work, but you're gonna make a lot of money from it. And in the 6 months, 1 year for training and licensing and what have you, you're good. You can find these programs that will pay you,
Hmm.
or being a mechanic. There's tons of trade institutes that will pay you to take their classes because again, they just don't have enough people for it.
Yeah. Yeah. My uncle, um, you know, high school dropout, got into construction, did that other than a couple of years he did in the army in the late 40s because there was a draft. Construction was pretty much all he did, and by the time he was 30 he was making more money than the teachers he had in high school.
Yeah, yeah, I totally believe it. Yeah, those kinds of things that aren't pushed in school. Oftentimes, I mean, I have a very negative view of schooling in general, especially public schooling. I mean, the way we do education in this country is
Mhm.
absurd. We don't. It really shouldn't be called education. It should just be called the Department of
Yeah.
Schooling because you don't learn
I
anything.
yeah, I served a 13-year sentence in that system, so I know exactly how it is.
All I'm saying is that school and prison have the same number of letters. I'm not. That's all I'm saying. I'm not making any judgments, but same number of letters. Schools or prisons. Anyway, yeah, they really are. It's just. I have a very negative view of school. As somebody who went through it.
Yeah. Yeah, what I really hated was about school the most was the bullying, you know, and how how there would be teachers and principals standing right there watching the whole thing happen, knowing who started it. But if I fought back, I would be the one dragged to the office, threatened with expulsion, threatened with juvenile hall if that ever happened again,
Yep.
or I'd be suspended for like a week.
Yeah. I have a pretty similar experience, and what you're describing is what is it called? No tolerance, the no tolerance policy, and it's one of the biggest lies we were ever told as children, which is if you see something, come to us, we will handle it. We have a zero tolerance policy towards bullying, which is nonsense. And I have a story actually that coincides with this perfectly, which is some sixth grade, seventh grade. I lived not very far, so I would either walk or I would bike to school because it was I mean maybe 100 yards, 150. I lived pretty close to my middle school, and one of these days I was biking, and this punk kid who probably didn't grow up with a very good home and probably had a mother who didn't care like him very much, or maybe a dad who beat his mom or something. Like he probably had just had a bad life because he was just a prick kid. Like he was 12. Anyway, picked on me and my friends a bunch. And he one of these days, because most of the time I just tried to ignore it because it was basically just it was all talk. Like he didn't really try anything really. He wasn't the kind of kid who would like shove you into lockers along like as you're walking through the hall. It wasn't. It was just like jabs about my mother and crap like that. Just being a prick. And one of the days he finally tried something while I was walking home, which was he tried to steal my bike. As I was like, I think I had gotten off of it. I had either gotten a flat or something. I don't remember that part, but I was off and I was wheeling it to my house, and he tried to like rip it out of my hands. And him being dumb that he is, he only grabbed onto the handlebars. So I grabbed the back end, I flung it up, and because it was only one brake, which was the back tire, it wasn't the front ones, because otherwise the cables would catch around, you wouldn't be able to flip it around. But it was only one in the back, so I flipped it around, and the steel peg caught him in the side of the head, which he let go of my bike after that, busted his head open, what have you. I didn't even fling it that hard, but I got my bike back. The next day, he had gone to the principal, and I got suspended for 5 days, and nothing happened to him. And they knew that I had been complaining about this for months on end, and nothing had
Mhm.
happened. Finally, he tried to take my property, and I got fed up with it, so I stood up for myself. He didn't do it again, but I was out of school for 5 days.
Yeah.
So yeah, this zero tolerance policy is nonsense. And I have friends who've told me stories that they don't care at all. And I don't know why it is that it almost seems like a protection system for terrible people,
Mhm.
but that's almost what it ends up seeing. It like grinds down kids. I mean, you've seen this kind of what should supposedly be zero tolerance, but what is actual zero tolerance is teaching kids self defense, and that if a kid talks bad about your mom, you smack him in the mouth. and then it's over with. But you're not allowed to do that because we don't want kids fighting. It's like, you want kids to stop fighting, teach them self-defense, teach them jujitsu. Jujitsu will humble you real quickly,
Mhm.
real quickly.
Yeah, I mean, I could tell you all sorts of stories. There was the sixth grade classmate stole my picture day money. We had to
Mhm.
go we had to go to class with $8 to pay for our class pictures. Stole it, bought a bunch of candy with it, gave it to the other classmates. Yeah, we didn't find out till like 2 days later that's how he got that money, but nothing happened to him.
No, of course not. Because, if you don't come up with proof, then, and like, there has to be some kind of system, but
Yeah, I
it
mean,
should seem kind of obvious. If a kid didn't have $8 before, you didn't get to take your picture, and then this kid ended up with candy, 2 + 2 = 4 at the end of the day.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I had my picture taken. It's just that in order have the copies of the pictures,
Right.
you
Yeah.
know,
Uh,
the big 8x10 portrait and the wallet size pictures.
right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
This was 1990. Yeah, to to give the teacher the $8, and yeah, eventually he was found out. He had even admitted to doing it, and nothing happened to him.
Unbelievable.
And that's how I learned that the system is not on your side. Yeah,
Yeah. I have a not quite in that vein, but I guess in the spirit of the system not being on your side. Do you remember it was during the Donald Trump presidency? So like the MAGA hat was the symbol of white Christian racism and what have you.
yeah,
And it was the kid, the smiley, the kid that smirked to the Native American guy.
yeah. That
Do you remember this whole
Nick
story?
Sandman. Yeah,
Nick Sandman. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's him. And at first you see the story and you're like, he's kind of being a prick to this Indian guy. That's kind of messed up. I don't know. He's 17. Whatever. I was always like, why is this a national story? Like he was
yeah.
he was a prick kid to an adult. Isn't that what kids do? Like this is supposed to be shocking to me, but of course it's Donald Trump's is president, and the media has completely lost its mind. So this was national story for a week,
Hmm.
and then a couple days later, it finally starts to come out that no, that's not at all what happened. He wasn't being mean to this old man at all. He was just standing there. He was kind of uncomfortable, didn't really know what to do, so he just kind of smiled. It looked like a smirk, whatever. And then they brought well, who was it? I think it was Good Morning America
Hmm.
brought Nick Sandman onto national television and basically just tried to call him a racist for 20 minutes in this interview. And simultaneously, two things happened. To me personally, I was like, wow, this media is full of crap. And then the second thought was they will ruin a kid for being a child. They will ruin people based on this kind of
Hmm.
identity that they have. So I was like in the same way that your realization that the system is not on your side because they protected this kid who stole money from you. The system protected this Nathan Phillips, that's the guy's name, who lied, blatantly lied and tried to gain all this sympathy for this, and
Yeah,
then tried to ruin a kid for
yeah. The
nothing.
guy. Yeah, the guy's like stolen valor.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
said he was said he was
He's
a ranger in Vietnam, but
yes.
he was like a repairman stationed stateside when he was never in country.
Yep. And I think he made it even worse. One interview, he said that he had a firefight with a Viet Cong brigade or whatever their term is, and yeah, just complete nonsense.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was my big realization.
Yeah. Yeah. That. Yeah. I never supported Trump. Sometimes I care less for his supporters than the man himself, but there was something very fishy about that story.
Yeah. Or the what was it? Dave Chappelle called Jussie. He called him Juicy Smoulier.
Yeah.
The Jussie story. There was a lot of media malfeasance in the Trump years. But yeah, I like you. I recognize your or I recognize your sentiment. I didn't vote for Trump. I did not, and if he is not the nominee again, I will not. You know, it's just there's not enough libertarian bona fides to for me to even come close to touching that. And I don't know,
Yeah.
that his kind of I don't know. The thing about Trump for me is it's a double-edged sword. It's I see what the other side is, and I just don't. I can't do anything with it. There's nothing on the modern day left that is redeemable to me in any way, shape, or form. I mean, well, okay, two things. They're very skeptical of the cops, and no, never mind. That's about it, actually. That's pretty much it. Is they're skeptical of the cops, but then they want to just kind of nationalize security instead of cops. It's even worse.
The ones I've encountered, it's FTP until they want somebody to enforce COVID rules.
Yep, exactly.
And they'll not say they won't. And if you were to show them if you were to show them footage of say the pregnant woman in Australia
Oh
getting
my
handled
God.
roughly by police.
Yeah, it's just so horrible.
There there
And
there
they
was
have
there was
no
there was a
problem.
there was a high school classmate of mine who actually made a snide remark about her quote unquote white privilege not meaning anything anymore.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's just horrible. Australia was really bad on COVID. Like when I say really bad on COVID, I mean like maybe New Zealand was worse, but I mean when we or well, China was definitely worse. But when we're saying like the people got sent to camps, and that's not at all an exaggeration. I mean, these
Hmm.
people were literally political prisoners sent to camps, very literally. And
Yeah.
I won't say the word that should remind you of, but it starts with N, ends in I, and has a Z in the middle.
Yeah. Yeah. The when that was going on, I commented on Twitter that Ned Kelly, the the outlaw, would never have put up with this, and there was an Australian tweeter who responded, "Yeah, that's why they hung him."
And the total like the irony doesn't even like come through to them. It's like, yes, do you see the problem here? That is the whole problem with what you just said. Yeah, that's why they hung him. That's the problem.
Hmm.
It doesn't even register. It's like, yes, you're unironically sponsoring the government murder of somebody who does what you don't like.
Hmm. Yeah. They couldn't get away with it here because we got guns.
Hmm. Yeah, I that is one thing is I think COVID, I think it put a nail. Well, two things: COVID and 3D printing kind of put a nail in the coffin of the gun control argument forever. And well, empirical data, but they don't care about that anyway. So
Yeah. 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 So I noticed you went to some event recently where you got to meet Ron Paul. How was that?
oh yeah, that was Young Americans for Liberty's annual conference in Florida, Revolution. That man, I went 2022 and I went this year again. It's a total blast. I mean, it's there's a lot of there's a lot more right people, but they're generally more liberty minded. They're not like a John McCain or a Lindsey Graham type Republican. These people like Thomas Massey and Rand Paul. I mean, they're not going to go for Mitch McConnell. Like
Yeah.
they're, but they still have their tendencies, and definitely there's one thing I did notice, which is kind of troubling, is there was more diehard Trump people this year. Like I was in the part of it was we read when we registered, we got set on this group chat thing for people to like manage rides and what have you, like just airport shuttles, that kind of thing, like logistical stuff.
Hmm.
But there was like on the day of registration, there was a bunch of people saying, let's all wear our red and pink MAGA hats and take a giant MAGA picture. And, so that was kind of concerning because
Yeah.
this is Ron Paul's group. They started as Students for Ron Paul,
Yeah.
and then they became Young Americans for Liberty. But it was a blast. I got to meet and talk with Scott Horton, who is just, I mean, the encyclopedia of anti-war knowledge cannot be overstated. And I'm super looking forward to his new book. I'm going to pick that thing up as soon as it's available.
Yeah.
But yeah, talk to him, talked to a bunch of people. Yeah, Scott's the best.
Yeah. I had a chance to hang out with him in Reno. It was like right after Uvalde, and so he was talking.
Oh, I
He
bet
was
that
like
was fun.
really wound up, right?
Oh, I'm sure, because that was horrible. Yeah, I'm sure
So
he
yeah,
was.
he was like really wound up, and I know weed is supposed to make you like mellow out, but imagine if he was that wound up sober and he just fidgeted himself into another dimension.
Oh, I'm sure. Well, how many videos does he put on how many videos does he put on Twitter a month of cops being awful people and saying this is your security force?
Yeah,
I'm sure, especially right after Uvalde, I'm sure he was irate because that's not terrible. It wasn't really far from him, right? I mean, it was like right outside of Austin. So I
yeah,
think he
he
was pretty
was.
close.
Yeah, he was very super wound up about it. About how the police they stopped parents and concerned citizens from going in there. One thing about Uvalde, Texas 2021 versus say Texas 1966,
Hmm.
the university tower shooting,
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like eight regular Joes showed up. And did the police stop them? No, they were deputized on the spot, and they ran up that tower, and
Yep. Took care of business.
the guy offed himself when he saw it was going to happen to him.
Yep. Yeah, Uvalde was particularly horrible because I mean, the first, just in general, I mean, seeing a bunch of dead children is, I mean, anybody who's a rational human being sees that and goes, "This is horrible." I mean, the fact that this happened at all is just a travesty. But then when the people who are supposed to be there to serve and protect, and instead they wait outside for 55 minutes while they hear the screams of children
Hmm.
and hear automatic rifles going off. Well, semi-automatic rifle. I don't think he had whatever. Hearing rifles going off and knowing that these kids are just being brutally murdered is again. We're on YouTube, so I can't say what I think cops should. Well, what should happen to cops who this happens to. But yeah, like you're totally right. I mean,
They should be publicly cashiered.
yes, yes,
They should, in front of a televised city council meeting, have their badges, name tags, their citation
there's
bars, their medals,
service weapons.
their
Yep.
service weapons should be taken from them, their patches, all of that stuff ripped off their uniform, and then be made to march out of that building.
Yes, as the Uvalde murderers. I mean, it's not literally their fault, but when you stand outside for 50 minutes and hold back parents who are trying to get their children out of harm's way, like let me just put it this way. It was not in the end, it still was not stopped by a cop. It was stopped by an off-duty border patrol agent. He wasn't even authorized to be there. And he's like, don't care, going in anyway. And you know what, man? That's what people will do. That like when it comes to protecting their own, people will protect their own. And you know, the arming teachers argument I find to be one of the more pedantic ones that just drives me nuts. It's not literally an argument of let's give every teacher in America a weapon that they can defend their classrooms with. It's literally just letting people that are comfortable
Yeah,
with their weapons and are available to protect children allow
yeah,
them to do that. That's all it means.
yeah. The thing about arming teachers is that many of them, for reasons both good and bad, aren't comfortable with weapons.
Yeah. And then the main argument you hear in opposition is, well, there's just going to be shootouts in school, and what it, well, you know what? This kid didn't do his homework, and this teacher's having a bad day. Oh well, and maybe they're having a bad life at their home, like their wife is bad to them. Oh, he just shot this kid. Now that's on you, with no evidence at all. By the John Stossel did an episode on this a couple of years ago, like when it was first starting to come around. This argument, he could not find one verified report of a teacher shooting a student. Not one. And by the way, another thing to note, all of these communities in Texas, a lot of these counties have it in their law books that the teachers can bring weapons to school. Now, it has to be posted, like they have to have a sign out front that says our teachers are armed. But guess what county didn't have that ability? The county that Uvalde was in.
Hmm.
The only one in Texas that didn't have that, where teachers are allowed to carry, was the one that was unfortunately where this happened. Just something to think about. I'm not saying it's a direct correlation. There could be several factors. Economy is a factor, crime is a factor, what have you. But something to think about.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, that's the two things that spring that from school shootings that bother me the most are one, calls for more gun control, two, a chilling effect on free expression on campuses.
Yeah.
You know, they really went hard after goth kids after Columbine.
Yeah. And Charles Manson was really like in their crosshairs too. Or not Charles
Then
Manson, not Charles Manson.
Maryland,
Marilyn Manson. Thank you.
yeah,
Charles Manson was an older story. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and then you know, really. And if I could throw in a third, wingnuts who reflexively say crisis actors. The school was a hologram.
Yeah.
That
Like I know a lot of our ilk really I'm not gonna say look up to Alex Jones because that's definitely not the right word. But there's a certain affinity for an Alex Jones type, and I get it to an extent. It's an alternative media. We recognize that the media is nonsense, and he's offering a different perspective. But then you get the Sandy Hook thing,
uh,
and yeah, I do agree with you. The automatic reactionaries of, oh, this can't be real, this is fake, this didn't happen, there's no way. Like, yeah, I don't know, man. You know, 3,000 people died on 9/11, and their families will tell you very, very sincerely, that they don't have that person around anymore.
yeah,
The families of Sandy Hook will say that they don't have their children around anymore. And
yeah. They had to bury their kids on Christmas.
yeah, and look, I definitely while we're on Alex Jones, I definitely don't at all support what happened to him on the back end, like the cracking down on him and the what did he end up having to what did he end up getting a settlement? Wasn't it like $2 billion or something in total? Something to that effect.
Like more like trillion.
Well, yeah, whatever it ends up being. Like,
Yeah,
look, he definitely that was definitely out of line. to be that reflexive, and you can put on whatever face you have about it. Maybe you bring in some expert, which is what he supposedly did. But at the end of the day, he didn't kill those kids. And the argument in court that was made was essentially it caused emotional damages, and that was what was used as a justification for having to pay this much money. And I find that to be a real slippery slope. Like, if we're going to start being able to prosecute people and reach settlements for my feels are hurt, I mean, that's a scary precedent to have, at least in my opinion.
Mm. And I mean, the thing is that these folks, there was a family who had to move around like 12 times in the span of a year.
Yeah, but again, that's not. It's the same kind of. It's the same kind of thing. Who, like, when someone who supposedly listens to Ben Shapiro becomes an extremist. I mean, that's not really the fault of Ben Shapiro. That's
Yeah.
the fault of the person. So again, people are individually responsible for their actions.
Most extremists I know stop listening to Shapiro at some point anyway.
That's very true. Exactly. It's very true. Yeah, you're not exactly a right wing extremist if you listen to Steven Crowder. Like,
Yeah.
you're barely scratching the surface.
Yeah. Uh, you know, there is even one disturbing report I heard of an Alex Jones listener writing a letter to one of those folks bragging about urinating on the
Yeah,
graves of one of the kids, and that was like,
yeah, like that, and those individual people, like, obviously that's kind of a hard thing to litigate because if there's so many people who are harassing you, but that's what harassment suits are for. But again, putting that all on Alex Jones is it's again, people are not responsible for what somebody who receives the information does. If I say, I think the Federal Reserve should be forced to be shut down and never reopened for business, that doesn't mean I necessarily support somebody going in there with a suicide vest and blowing up the building. Like,
mhm,
there's still people that work there. They might be government agents, they might be NPCs, but they are still human beings.
yeah, yeah, yeah. They, that's what I think too about you know blowing up buildings and uh, then there's then you got some people in our spheres who like to do things like cheer whenever a cop gets killed, and I was like, no.
That one's hard because it's like, again, when we say judge people by their individual actions, I would not have had a problem if the cop who was standing on George Floyd or kneeling on George Floyd was killed in that moment because he was killing another man, and I would have
Yeah,
considered it to self-defense on or like, I guess, vigilante justice, but I kind of hate the term, but like, absolutely justifiably remove the
there's
threat from another innocent person. Like,
about a
but
yeah
yeah, I get exactly what you
yeah
mean. Like, a
about a
cop
day
just like randomly driving blows
yeah
up in the street. Yeah, and
yeah
the
about a decade ago, right? We had a sheriff's deputy and a civilian locksmith serving a lawful eviction order.
right.
The guy that was still in the living in that unit killed both of them.
Ugh.
That is now that was a case where he was obviously murdered. It wasn't like he was doing
Yes.
some dynamic warrantless no knock Waco style raid. He was carrying out his lawful duties.
Yes, exactly. And even if
That's what I'm referring to now.
yeah,
Now,
exactly.
if you were to see, a scenario where you've got three cops, you know, with their asp batons, thumping on some guy who's already on the ground because he's been tased,
Right.
and a citizen sees that, pulls out his weapon and intervenes on behalf of the victim. That would be a whole different scenario.
Right, exactly. And the argument would inevitably be, well, they're cops, they're just doing their job, and that they still have they have the legal authority and blah blah blah. And I always say, if you removed that legal authority, let's remove this smoke and mirrors that we call the government, because all government is just a monopoly on the use of physical force in a given area.
Mm-hmm.
So if you remove this monopoly on physical force that we've supposedly granted them, though admittedly I didn't sign any contract. If you understand social contract theory, you get the joke.
Yeah.
I didn't sign shit. And so if we remove this smoke and mirrors, what's happening to this man? Like Rodney King, what happened to this guy? Now, I'm not saying he's the greatest person of all time, but what happened to him? He was
Mm-hmm.
already on the ground. He got the stuffing beaten out of him completely unlawfully, like a lot of black people in the 80s and under LAPD, because they were a corrupt piece of crap organization. Like that kind of thing. Somebody intervenes, I'm not gonna have a problem. But what's happening to him? He's getting he's getting beaten. It's an not an innocent person, but somebody who's already down, who's the law has been applied. A completely unnecessary violation of his liberties of being
Mm-hmm.
attacked. Like I'm saying innocent person in the sense of justice has quote unquote already been served. He's already been issued there's already a thing here. There's already a process here, and it's been fulfilled. Beating him from there is a total violation of his liberties.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if he's been tased, then zip tie him, put him in the back of the car, book him.
Exactly. Yeah, I totally agree with you.
Yeah,
100%.
but but having your partner and a couple of other guys who just come in as backup, beat him with the collapsible batons, and when I took my guard card course, I was told that at the right angle you could permanently cripple someone by getting him on the kneecap at the right angle, or bust open a skull.
Goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Unbelievable.
Yeah. Which is totally why civilians should have them too. You know.
Yeah. That's funny.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Just pull it out of your back pocket. Yeah. A mugger will think twice.
Right, exactly. Or what I say to friends of mine is, I don't even necessarily need to shoot an intruder. If you've ever heard a 12 gauge getting racked, it's loud. It's real
Yeah.
loud. Good luck wanting to rob a house when you hear on the other end of the door.
Yeah. That's what an asp, a collapsible baton, has that same effect.
Yep. It makes a it's not as loud, but it makes a pretty similar sound. It's got
Yeah.
a whipping type sound. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just say shotgun because it's louder.
Yeah, but yeah, that as I said, even if they are armed government workers, even if they are paper pushing bureaucrats at the Federal Reserve, they are at the end of the day human beings,
Right.
Um, I mean, for Christ's sake, some of those federal buildings, like the Alfred P. Murrah building, they had daycare centers.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly. And especially like those children have literally nothing to do with it.
yeah, yeah. I mean, every once in a while I'll see some idiot talk about Timothy McVeigh being a hero, and it was like he killed
Ugh.
kids too.
Yeah, it goes back to like what we said about the Alex Jones types, the reactionary types, where they see something that happens and there's an immediate reaction of X, Y, or Z, whatever happens to be in favor of like their worldview or what have you. It's the
Hmm.
same kind of thing with like the McVeigh and the OKC bombing, which there's some real weird questions about that in general. Like, I'm not even 100% sure it was Timothy McVeigh that did it, but again, like that's a whole rabbit hole that
Well,
if people want to go down, they can.
he didn't act alone.
That is for certain.
You
That
know,
is a
I
hundred
think
percent certain.
I believe John Doe number two either accidentally died in the blast, or he's somewhere out there at large.
He is what I think I'm half joking here, but it's definitely a possibility. He is on a very remote island somewhere with no internet access, living a very good life under WITSEC.
I actually would believe that. Yeah.
Again, I'm half joking, but like you say, I would not at all be surprised.
Yeah, I mean there was actually a letter that McVeigh wrote to his sister where he talks about being part of a deep cover um, outfit that provided security for the CIA Columbia Mina connection.
Wow, yeah, that story is so fun to read into, and
Hmm.
there's so many roads you can go down. But the fact that there was a cop who was first on the scene who never officially got to tell his story and was, you know, very coincidentally killed right as he was starting to let people know that he's pieced something together about this that doesn't seem quite right. It's a real,
Hmm.
it's a real convenient
Yeah,
death. Really convenient.
yeah. I mean that was my biggest disappointment about the Waco Aftermath miniseries, which was like which was like a sequel to the miniseries that was on Netflix during of all times the pandemic.
Right.
Here, right? Yeah, Paramount Plus had a sequel to that, and they never explored the John Doe number two question.
Well, because when you start to explore the John Doe number two question, it kind of blows a hole. No pun intended in the story. Sorry, that's a really bad joke. I shouldn't say
Yeah,
that.
well,
That's fucked up.
yeah. Oh God.
I I don't support people putting explosives into the back of a truck and then plowing into a building. I just want to put that out there.
Yeah. Yeah, 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 there's definitely some very hinky stuff with the going on to this day with the Oklahoma City bombing, and yeah, that was again the reaction to it. Um, Basically anyone to the right of Rush Limbaugh being labeled an extremist.
Yeah,
Um,
right.
yeah, this was when I was starting to listen to talk radio, and
Hmm.
start paying attention to things. And so there was that. A lot of scaremongering around the citizen militia movement.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was well, OKC was what, 91, 90, early
it was 95.
95. Okay, so I was -2. I was born in 1997, so that's past my time. But yeah, I've definitely, you could go back and so what I tell Trump people is that the supposed crusade against however you would want to say it, right wing type people. It's not anything new. It's not even close to new.
Hmm.
Just like you said, the citizen militia movement is largely like constitutionalist. These are people that carry pocket constitutions on them, and
Yeah.
these are like patriots at the very literal sense of the word. People who would fight and die for the country, who were lied to. Like these are like hardcore people. You're never going to take my guns type of people, you know.
Hmm.
And in general, the if you're going to turn this country into something that they're not going to like, there's going to be a real bad reaction to, like, there's going to be a real bad reaction to your actions of lying us into wars, of uh, making us all scared of a floating abstraction,
Yeah.
and even going 95, you trying to push this kind of scaremongering tactic against citizen militias, you're going to kind of create what you fear in a sense.
Yeah.
But then they
Yeah.
wanted to sign the Patriot Act, so
Yeah.
give carte blanche power to George W. Bush, and look where it got you.
It's really fun. What's really funny about talk radio in the '90s was that Rush Limbaugh and most talk radio actually sided with law enforcement. The only one who called BS on it was, of all people, G. Gordon Liddy.
Really
Yeah,
interesting. Okay, that's not something you'd expect at all.
yeah. He thought that they were. He called the hostage rescue team out of control cowboys.
Wow.
He actually advised people that if a SWAT team comes crashing through your door, no knock, no warrant, no anything, aim for the head or the groin. Don't hit the body armor. And
Wow.
that was Gordon Liddy saying that.
Wow.
For
That's
for
wild.
former FBI agent,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
former county prosecutor who busted Timothy Leary, the guy who actually wrote in a memo about wrote in a memo suggesting that Jack Anderson's steering wheel be laced with LSD so he'd freak out and die in a car accident.
Oh my God.
That that very same G. Gordon Liddy.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
that ought to say something when federal law enforcement gets too extreme even for him.
Right, exactly. Yeah, these people kind of like protect their own and side with their own all the time. We saw with the absolute scam that was the Russian collusion investigation and the total nonsense. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
the level of protection that these people
Yeah.
place themselves under. So yeah, like you say, when somebody like this goes out of their way to say, yeah, federal law enforcement's out of their minds, that's something.
Yeah. 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 It's and it's funny too because I watched that Watergate show on HBO Max, and Justin Theroux he actually gets Gordon Liddy down to a T.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Wow. Yeah, that's
like
wild.
Yeah.
I did not know that. 'Cause, yeah, like these people are cops. Like,
Yeah.
I know we like to separate the law enforcement from the FBI. I mean, they're cops. They're federal agents. They carry
Hmm.
badges. They have law enforcement power. They can serve warrants. Like they're cops.
And in the Clinton years, every federal agency wound up getting equipped with a SWAT team.
Yep.
Even the even the Department of Education, which actually raided a house in Sacramento in like 2010
Yep.
over
Yep.
believe it or not, an unpaid student loan.
It was an unpaid student loan. Yep. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And it's there's a book I have, or I wish I had it closer. And I'd show it. It's called it's either called Battlefield America or Battleground America: the war on our citizenry or something like that. It's
Mm-hmm.
that's a little too far to grab it, but it's all about the weaponization of police forces, and it's a giant problem. We saw the Free State Project in New Hampshire was like against one of these the I forget what their governor called them, but like they put them on a list of like extremists and like were like threatening them, were
Mm-hmm.
like intimidating them with like I forget what it was called, the big armored truck that they were awarded because they put the Free State Project on this list. That was why they got the grant from government. They got this gigantic, essentially armored like tank.
Yeah.
It's a giant problem. We saw it in Ferguson, Missouri. Like the
Mm-hmm.
Black Lives Matter protests were like essentially made to be
Yeah.
thrown out of their city by this like invading force. And whatever you think of the Black Lives Matter protests, even early on, like that you can see something that you maybe don't necessarily agree with a protest or something, but you should absolutely be able to look at this invading army and go, this is a gigantic problem.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. They yeah, they I mentioned earlier Deputy Paris and the locksmith getting killed.
Right.
2 months before that, I was at a Tea Party meeting. Adam Christensen, who was the sheriff of Stanislaus County at the time,
Mhm.
said, "I look if there are certain strings attached to funding, I will not I will not accept I will not accept that funding, the
Right.
federal funding, and we're going to be very mindful of civil liberties." Then, not even a month after the death of Deputy Paris, there he is, front page of the paper, handling a bazooka, and the headline: Sheriff's Department receives grant from DOD. So yeah, they end up getting all this military hardware. They change their uniforms from khaki shirts and olive green pants to all black. Um, and they even start sending some of their deputies to Israel to learn anti-terror tactics.
Right.
Yeah.
The fact that like forget what it is, but there used to only be how many ever SWAT raids per year. Scott Horton talked about this in a Mises event. I think he said, I really wish I could remember the numbers, but it's like an, a mind-boggling number. I think he said above 50,000 SWAT raids per year. And most of it is like drug offenses. It's like we saw, I don't know if you saw this, but a couple months ago in Northern California, there was a marijuana farm raid, and there was a dog that was chained up, and the cops, because they're wimps, got scared of this dog and shot, and shot the
Mm-hmm.
dog, and the dog eventually died. But this was a raid on a marijuana farm, and it was a marijuana business. They were in process of licensing this whole farm, and didn't end up mattering. They both the husband and the wife went to prison. I think they're still there. I haven't kept up on the story. So that part might be wrong. Don't quote me there, but they definitely were booked. And of course, they lost their dog over something that I mean, you can't even over. It's literally medically impossible to overdose on marijuana. I mean, you'd have to
Yeah.
smoke like 1,000 joints an hour or something. And
Yeah.
Snoop Dogg might be happy with that, but nobody's going to die from it.
Yeah. 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 It's and when I was attacked in front of my house in June, it
That's
took
right. This is like
yeah,
recent for you.
yeah, it took 911 an hour and a half to send a sheriff's deputy out there. And when I complained about it on Nextdoor, your typical, back the blue types were there with their excuses. Well, they're low on funds, they're low on resources. And I'm like, if they can
Man,
afford to send deputies to Israel, they can afford to find a crackhead who's squatting in some empty house within a 3 block radius of where I live. Which, surprise, surprise, it turned out that's where he was after he was arrested
yeah.
on
Well, that,
an unrelated matter too. He was violating a restraining order his wife had on him. Yeah.
so a great guy,
Oh yeah.
an upstanding citizen.
Uh huh. A pillar of the community.
Yeah, exactly. So what's with all that now? Like are you all good? Is he wasn't he like just let out again or something?
He was let out on September 11th. A lot
That's
of
ironic.
yeah, a lot of people were worried, and there had even been a couple of sightings. And then at 11:45 that evening, the Ceres Police Department picked him up for grand theft,
Wow.
receipt of stolen property, and because he is what he is, resisting arrest.
Yeah.
So,
Uh,
and he's looking at a felony charge. We won't be seeing him again in 2 to 5 years.
well, I mean that's good because that is the kind of person that we would actually want, not a 19-year-old kid who's selling marijuana to make money.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And that's why they say that these departments are quote unquote low on funding. It's not low on funding. It's that they're wasting their time with this drug war, which has, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
this is like libertarian flagellating ourselves because we've been at the precipice of the war on drugs forever. But it's been a total failure. I mean,
Yeah.
there are more drugs now than when it started. We can't keep drugs out of federal prisons where it's supposed to matter. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's been a total failure. It's ruined people's lives. We could go down the road, but we all know the libertarian arguments for it.
Oh
It's a
yeah.
blatant disaster.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. They do spend a bit of time on the war on drugs. Sherlock police, they've been harassing smoke shops because they've been selling cannabis flavored vape juice.
Right.
Uh, yeah, there are smaller towns here in this county. They will not put up with legalized weed.
And somebody needs to get to these people, and I really do. I really don't have a. I don't know how to get through to these people, but I recognize a lot of I have a lot of sympathy with the argument that these kind like if we legalize drugs it ruins people's lives. I'm like uh, lives are already being ruined now. Like
Yeah.
you're describing the status quo, and it's helped anybody. It's literally just made the problem worse. So you can try
Hmm.
to string it eight ways from Sunday and try to justify whatever you want to justify, but
Yeah. And
I,
ironically, a lot of those small towns have ironically, a lot of those small towns, they have crack houses and meth labs
yeah,
operating under their
exactly.
noses.
Everywhere. I for God, how many years? Like 10 years or something. I lived in a town in Southern California called Lake Elsinore. And if you know anything about Lake Elsinore, I'm not sure if you do. It's a pretty remote town in Southern California off of 15. There's literal meth labs all over the place. I mean, it's not like ghetto. There's definitely its ghetto parts, if you will. But I mean, behind my elementary school, there was a dirt field, and if you went back far enough, there was a trailer back there. And that trailer one summer caught fire and blew up, and it was found out that it was a meth trailer. They were cooking meth there. Fortunately, nobody got hurt. I think they had left to run errands or something. It was a local story. It didn't really go anywhere. But yeah, exactly like you say, like these people that are so high and mighty on their morality and use it against the rest of us. You can't have meth because it'll destroy your life. So we're going to throw you in prison for 20 years, make sure you can never have a job, and make sure you're traumatized for life.
Yeah, they no, there goes that damned rooster again.
I can't hear it, so I think you're good.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you're okay.
Yeah.
I can't. Yeah, I can't hear it.
Yeah, they yeah, that's yeah, I mean, yeah, definitely lives are being ruined. Yeah, but they no. I mean, it's like, see, when I was a kid, most of what I knew or thought I knew about drugs and drug policy came from either Dare
Yeah,
or Dragnet reruns. You know,
right. Yeah.
my mind changed in my 20s when I finally started noticing that a lot of my friends and coworkers were casual marijuana users, but they were also productive, law abiding citizens. Well,
Right.
otherwise law abiding citizens.
As far as we're concerned, law-abiding citizens, because we think those laws are immoral and shouldn't exist. I get, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I get your point.
Yeah. Uh, so, so, and at the same time, I had watched the Criterion Collection DVD of Naked Lunch, and there was a feature where crap, I forgot his name. Let me look it up real quick.
Yeah, this was a movie or a TV show special
Uh,
feature.
it was a movie.
Okay.
William William S. Burroughs. That is so weird. I watched that movie so many times, read some of his work, and my name and his name just blanked on me for some reason.
It's all
But yeah,
good.
William S. Burroughs said something that very thought provoking, that America did not have problems until drug law started appearing on the books.
Yeah.
So I did a whole deep dive into the history of the whole thing. I mean, yeah, it's true. Cocaine was in Coca-Cola originally. Um, you know, you had stuff like Jimson weed growing wild all over the place, and people would do that to get high. There was even marijuana flavored rock candy, and whole families would buy that stuff and get totally baked on it.
Right. There's always been a demand. You can go back 2,000 years and hear stories of people that like lick the backs of frogs, like
Hmm.
because their secretion gets them high, or smoke a particular type of tree bark. I mean,
Yeah.
humans have had their fix for forever.
Odysseus encountering the lotus eaters.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. It's been around forever. It's not going away. I mean, caffeine is a drug.
Hmm.
We accept it more, but caffeine is a drug. I had a coffee earlier. Did I need
Yeah,
it? No, probably not. But like we all have our thing.
yeah. I mean, I'm addicted to Arizona iced tea.
Oh, but man, that $1 can is so nice.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah,
That
the green tea is my favorite. I mean, it's like the closest thing to spice melange on in reality for me.
right. Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
That
if it were spice melange, I would be a third stage guild navigator right now by now, moving spaceships across the known universe.
be right on stage with Elon Musk and SpaceX.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh
yeah.
goodness.
Yeah, speaking of Elon Musk, do you watch any of the Star Wars stuff on Disney Plus?
I okay, so I'm not watching Ahsoka currently. It's just
Yeah,
I've been watching too many stuff, and I really should because I love Star Wars. Like I loved Star
yeah,
Wars Rebels, and I
yeah.
love Clone Wars. Yeah, I'm a
I'm
giant Star Wars fan.
yeah, yeah. I'm hearing people starting to call Thrawn as played by Skarsgård, Elon Smurf.
Okay, but you know what? That's pretty good. That's pretty funny. I
Yeah.
can totally see why. Yeah, that's hysterical. Oh God, the internet is undefeated. Yeah, there's bad stuff about the internet, but man, that kind of stuff is funny.
Yeah.
Elon Smurf as Thrawn. That's so
Yeah.
good.
No, what's funny here is I saw this one meme. It's a still shot from the Menagerie episode of Star Trek.
Mhm.
Kirk standing next to Pike in the wheelchair, and the caption, "Look at me, Hector."
Yeah,
Get
I'm
it?
gonna no. Well, I'll tell you why. No, there's something. It's kind of funny because my name is Kirk, right? I've
Yeah.
seen exactly 6 seconds of Star Trek in my life. And I kind of keep it that way for a childish reason, which is spite, because I think it's funny.
Okay.
But I don't know. I've been told by a bunch of people I would enjoy Star Trek. I'll watch it eventually. It's just it's
Yeah.
not yeah. But in the meantime, it is funny. Like, oh, what's up, Captain? And I tell people to call me Captain, and I've never seen it. I've I can tell you the exact 6 seconds that I've seen of Star Trek. It's some green alien girl is kissing Kirk, and he backs away and then just punches her right in the mouth. That's it. That's the
Who
seconds.
whom gods destroy. That's the episode you're talking about.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't have told you that. It was when Vine was really popular, and for whatever reason it blew up on Vine years ago. I mean, this had to have been like 2012 or something. This was old school YouTube
Hmm.
when I saw it. It's on like one of those reaction like this might be outside your wheelhouse, but I grew up when Keemstar was a big thing, and Drama or these kind of like reaction type channels, and one of them was
Hmm.
called Equals Three, and he did like a
Yeah.
breakdown viral videos segment, and that was one of them that he broke down, and that's where I saw it, and that's the only thing I've seen of Star Trek ever. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's yeah, YouTube has certainly gone a long way from you know, the candy that ridiculous Candy Mountain thing with the unicorn and
Oh,
when yeah
Nyan Cat.
yeah
Yeah.
yeah that yeah when that came out I got quite a bit of that.
Oh, I'm
You know,
sure.
are we going to Candy Mountain, Charlie?
Oh, sorry. That's Charlie the Unicorn. That's
Yeah.
yeah. There's another from that same channel. There was another I guess show called Llamas with Hats, and my friends and I
Huh.
quote it constantly.
Yeah.
It's really screwed up. Like it's a pretty messed up cartoon, but God, is it funny.
Yeah.
Charlie Unicorn was good too, but I didn't watch it. I didn't watch it a ton.
Yeah. Yeah, Flash gets they did this funny Warhammer versus furries series. You've seen that?
No, but oh my God, that's funny.
Oh
That
gosh, yeah.
whole that whole community is so like bizarre to me. Like you,
Warhammer or furries.
well, you know what? It could be both. Uh, I meant the furries, but you know what? The Warhammer one is funny too. No, but like that whole community is so weird to me. And you know what? It's people finding their escape from life. So, whatever. Go nuts. I don't care.
Yeah.
You might be weird. Like you know what was like the first kind of weird movement with that was like the bronies, the My Little Pony men.
Oh
Like that.
god.
Yeah.
I
Like it's so creepy and weird.
my first encounter with that. I
Uh-huh.
was riding the bus. I was reading a graphic novel adaptation of George R. Martin's The Hedge Knight,
Hmm.
and there was this guy, this younger fella, who asked me, "Oh, have you ever heard of MLPFIM?" He didn't tell me what the acronym was for, but throughout the whole 20-minute bus ride, he was totally talking about that like it was
Oh
the best
no.
thing since sliced bread,
Right.
right? And I still had no idea what he was talking about. So I asked a friend of mine who's more plugged into the pop culture than I am, and dude, that was a brony. What's a brony?
Yeah, it's just
Are you aware of the are you know what My Little Pony is, right? There's like this new version. I was like, oh my, oh oh God.
yeah. That is the appropriate reaction, and then mine was very similar. I was like, oh my God, there's 25-year-olds who are into My Little Pony. What? And they do it unironically. Yeah,
Yeah.
unbelievable.
Uh, yeah. You were saying about that community. Just
Yeah, it was just like that first kind of where I found like weird alternative communities. Yeah, like it's kind of messed up. Like the gay culture used to be kind of like an alternative community. It's just kind of people living their lives and what have you. That used to be an alternative community. But like that was my first exposure to the fact that like not everybody goes to a 9 to 5 desk job and then comes home, it drinks a beer and watches a sports game. They might turn
yeah,
on My Little Pony or go to a furry convention. It was just an interesting thing that
yeah.
yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, when I went to high school in the '90s, there were people starting to get into live action role play.
Yeah,
So
that's a big one.
and in the in the role playing scene at the time, there was the kindred, which was like they were so they were like going around pretending to be vampires and stuff.
Yeah,
So
I
yeah,
don't know that I've
I
come across that before.
yeah. So sometimes I'd occasionally run across somebody from school, and they'd be like, I'm in character, man. I can't talk right now."
Yeah, and you're like in character. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
And yeah, something that I just thought of. That's kind of funny that because I grew up performing quote unquote. I grew up working at a Renaissance fair,
Hmm.
and like just as part of that culture. Like my mom and I and my whole family, we used to go all the time. And my mom was working as a sign language interpreter. My dad would be like stage manager and what have you. And I had various odd jobs and stuff, and I got a little money out of
Yeah.
it. And it was fun, but like that, it didn't even register to me until just now. A lot of people find that kind of thing as like an alternative lifestyle, and it is in a
Yeah.
way. But like to
A,
me, it's so
yeah.
normal, it doesn't even register that it's like an alternative lifestyle. It's just like this
Yeah.
is what I do. What do you mean?
Yeah. ASL at a Ren fair.
Well, because a lot of them is
Yeah.
like it's like storytelling type stuff, right? So
Yeah.
it's Shakespeare and it's plays and it's the king and the queen and the what have yous. So and there are a lot of deaf people that go because they
Yeah.
find it interesting and what have you. It's a fun time. It's away from the normality of life, and you go and
Mhm.
you eat a turkey leg, you go see fencing, and and you go see a show where the queen
Yeah.
punches the whomever that is pissing her off that day.
Yeah.
And my mom would be and her team of like 5 6 people, or how many ever ended up being. It ended up being like I think a guild of 20 people
Hmm.
because there were just so many shows going at various times. And yeah, deaf people like entertainment too.
Yeah. Did you ever have somebody show up in like a Starfleet uniform pretending to be
Oh
from the
my god.
future?
Oh, dude, we got it all the time, and it was hysterical. We had so there's this one guild called I mean we called them the Carnies. I don't know what they called themselves, but think of like a carnival. They're
Yeah.
there and they're doing tricks, and they were court jesters essentially. And one of them came up, looked up and down and around, and went, "Where are we?" And the carnies talk in their accents, and they go, "Who are you?" And like they're like interacting with each other as if they're like alien species, and yeah, that kind of thing happened all the time. We had wizards come by, and they would fake apparate from one place to another, and the Renaissance character would flip their mind and call them a witch and run away. That kind of thing happened constantly.
Yeah.
Johnny Depp used to come all the time, and he would come on Pirate Day because
Uh,
everybody is dressed as Jack Sparrow. So he
yeah.
dressed as Jack Sparrow at the same time everybody else is dressed as Jack Sparrow. And the
Right
only way
on.
you could tell it was him was he was with his publicist, and his publicist didn't dress up as anything. So that's the only way you could tell. If you knew who his publicist was and you saw them walking together, you knew who it was.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, that yeah, I've not been to Renaissance fairs, but I knew people in high school who would they would go to that stuff. I've been to Civil War reenactments.
Oh, really?
Yeah, my favorite thing to do there is to just hang out at the surgeon's tent and watch them freak out the normies. By explaining how things like amputation worked. That
Yeah,
it
they'd
wasn't
like use a
yeah
yeah, they'd use like a bandsaw.
yeah, it wasn't just a simple matter of sawing off somebody's limb. You had to make incisions, cut nerves, vessels, cauterize.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, he and one year there was a guy who had he was like walking around with this large briarwood pipe, explaining that surgeons in the war had a lot of them smoked cigars and pipes because of the stink of rotting flesh all over the place.
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You know what I would do just to be just to mess with people is I'd go as William Lloyd Garrison, openly call myself an anarchist, and then say that I supported the secessionists.
Oh
Because
yeah,
he was a newspaper editor from the North, and like, it would be very historically accurate because that was what he did. And so like
yeah,
I'd be like, what do you mean? It's a Civil War reenactment. I'm reenacting what happened during the Civil War. I imagine
yeah,
the company that put it on would not let me do that for very long.
yeah. They yeah, that was a f- you froze for a bit. Hello?
As well. It is me. It's starting to give me the connection. I think. Hopefully it doesn't go too much.
Hmm. Yeah, you're getting all max headroom on me.
Can you hear me or no? Am I going out too much?
Yeah, you're kind of going out too much.
Oh no.
Yeah. Well, it's been
Doing
about
this to me now.
yeah. Well, it's been almost like what 2 hours, so maybe it would be a good time to wrap it up.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
Well, hey,
it's good.
it was a great conversation. We had quite a bit to talk about.
Yeah, I
Um,
really appreciate it. It was super fun. If you ever need me to come on again, ask. I'll absolutely come on.
all right. Okay. Well, let's see. End recording.